with a Rakan first pick, but I am surprised that they would prioritize it so much, especially with the Desire taken away. This does give the freedom for Rogue to then pick up the Sejuani, along with a very meta, very powerful Corki. I now wonder if SK will go for something aggressive in the mid lane. Now, we already heard from Leader in Ready Check about how he feels that these range-safe matchups can be countered by Assassins, and we know that Jenax does have a very deep champion pool. Whether he looks to leverage that or not will still be decided. They could look in their jungler right now. We expect the Aatrox to be top lane, but of course it can be flexed into both top and mid.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen Sacre play the Aatrox as of yet this split, so it could be that that's a Jenax super pick. We'll see if it is. Kaisa is the final lock-in here for SK on the first rotation, and Rogue have the opportunity to answer. Do you want to take an AD carry to make sure you don't get your pool pinched too much, or do you want to look up towards that top lane and give Finn something he's comfortable on?
Well, I feel like Rogue have pretty much gotten everything that they want in the draft right now. If I'm a Rogue fan, I'm very happy looking at this. Like, you've got one of the best junglers in the meta right now. You've got Corki with Azir banned off the table, who's considered like one of the strongest mid-game champions. Sorry, mid-lane champions rather. And you've also got Kled on a Kled one trick. And everyone assumed that was going to be banned away. Yeah. So, like, Rogue look pretty strong right now. They're very good. And while they don't have a bot lane locked in just yet, which means that SK can look to ban out those options, like, Kaisa and Rakan is not a duo that I consider one of the most terrifying in the current meta. Sure, Rakan provides strong engage, it gives Dreams a lot of roaming options, and I think that Kaisa is something that Crownshot definitely feels comfortable on, but I feel that the way in which Rogue have gotten their priorities, I think that their comp is looking very strong right now.
That it is. I'm just having a look back over 2019 in games that are tracked. We haven't actually seen Finn lose on Kled. Has a 100% win rate across 4 games that he has played in the Ultra League or in the EU Masters, so it's a very strong champion for him. With the Son of Braum taken away, the Kennen and Gnar removed by Rogue, they'll lock in the Nautilus as their first pick on this second phase, and SK Gaming looking towards the Sylas.
Alright, so Sylas is considered a better matchup into the Corki. It's something that I believe Griffin over in the LCK has actually been picking a lot, because with the magic damage shield, it also does naturally quite well into the likes of a Corki who just does a lot of magic damage. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that put into the mid lane. Now we're just kind of evaluating what jungle options they do have available to them. Right now with their comp, they have a bit of team fighting, they have strong side lane threat, they can set up a split push, so if they wanted to play for something safe, they could look for something like a Larssen. If they wanted a little bit more engaged, they could consider something like a Jarvan. Or they could look to put the Sylas in the jungle. Yeah. Unless this is an Aatrox jungle, which I don't necessarily expect. I feel like Sylas jungle would make more sense, but you never know. Definitely a lot of cross-map play available to SK. When we already... one of the issues that I've had with SK this second... Ooh, okay, we'll get to the Rogue composition in a second, because that's pretty cool. One of the issues that I've had with SK, especially in recent weeks, is that they've drafted comps that I feel are very difficult to play. There's a lot of things you need to be aware of. You need to be constantly thinking about where you have pressure, how you can play around that pressure, where you can set up on side lanes, how can you move across the map. And what I've wanted to see from SK is just a more straightforward comp. Now the advantages of this comp is that it's very easy to play around bot lane, because you can just send your Gangplank ultimate down, you have the Sylas set up for a dive, and then with the Rakan maybe you can look to make a play, but once you hit the mid game, this comp is much harder to execute. Whereas for Rogue, their comp is not only very comfortable for them, but it's also just very straightforward. They can easily set up for like a 4-1 play with having the Akali threaten off on a side lane, but ultimately they can just look to teamfight as often as they want. Corki scales extremely well, Akali scales well, the Kled will constantly act as a good engage with the Sejuani ultimate follow-up. It's a very straightforward front-to-back comp that give Rogue a lot of options. So as long as they don't fall behind in the early laning phase, I feel like that they're looking very good, and I have a lot more faith in Rogue's comp. But, you know, we'll explore SK, we'll explore what options they have once we actually get into the game, and we'll see how things play out. But right now, I think Rogue already looking very promising coming into this game.
Yeah, getting comfort picks across the board is definitely going to help them out. Larssen on that Akali. He's played it once, had a very strong game on it. Sadly, Rogue weren't able to take the win, but we'll see how effective he can be this game for his team. Woolite's taking the Corki down towards the bottom lane, not something we too commonly see. Corki is an AD carry, but alongside the Nautilus, you have a lot of burst, and you can catch someone out pretty easily. I'm going to jump on to Summoner's Rift in just a second. Both these teams vying for that 5th or 6th playoff spot. You have to feel Both of them want to break out of the losing streak that they are currently on. Their trajectory is only down. They need to change that roller coaster ride to one going up.
Well, we shall see if they can pull it off. It's SK versus Rogue. Two teams near the bottom of the league fighting for an opportunity at playoffs. Definitely an important game, especially now that we are in week 7. So let's have a look at what they're trying to set up in the early game. This is, of course, the Sylas jungle. You already mentioned it. The Corki in the bot lane for Woolite. So a couple of surprises, arguably, considering we are on 9-14 now. A lot of teams have considered Vander.
Flashes away.
So that is a great example of, of things you shouldn't do. The reason why that was super dangerous is because, well, I mean, you saw, right? If he'd had the rest of his team there supporting him and backing him up, then it's a lot safer of a play, but he had no pressure anywhere. The rest of his team had all backed off, and now he's flashless, which means that we could see an early gank bot. We expect Selfmade to do a full clear bot side, very similar to the Kiana that we saw, because your clear isn't the best at early levels, you're not the strongest, and you just kind of want to get level 3, and again, you can either base, or you can maybe look for an early gank. So he's going to do red into Krugs into top side. Inspired may look to do a full clear himself, given that he is on the Sejuani, very healthy, a lot of sustain, good clear speed, and given that he is starting up towards the Krugs, this does suggest that he's either looking for that, or he may even look for an invade, depending on if his team can actually get a sufficient push in or not. But if we're going to see an early gank from anywhere, I wouldn't be surprised to see Inspired look to gank top, because if you want to get any lane ahead, it should be Finn on this Kled.
Yeah, especially since Sacre has a lot of free harass with the parlay, has grasp as well. Bear trap on a rope does land, and of course now that applies Reaver's wounds for 6 seconds, 60% healing reduction on that Gangplank whenever Finn can connect with the bear trap.
See, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this is why I'm a little surprised by the Gangplank pick, because one of his biggest strengths is the oranges that he can consume to remove CC, but also give him a heal, but that heal is now mitigated by the Grievous Wounds. So I feel like that Kled can be a pretty solid matchup into the Gangplank. He's clearly losing early push right now, but I feel like that once you hit level 6, you have a lot of engaged setup, and you should be able to win out on those 1v1s as well. But again, I'm not super familiar with the matchup, so we'll see how things play out as they look for a gank in.
Oh, Larssen just about dodges away, jumps back in towards Jenax. Is Inspired coming in as well. Jenax going to have to flash away, and Selfmade there just to help out his mid laner.
So we saw both junglers take exactly the same path, doing full clears around one side of the map to get that level 3. Because Selfmade decided to go for an early gank rather than an early base, Inspired was also in a position to try and can a gank. This means that Selfmade isn't able to find anything, and because Inspired came second, it actually allowed them to both collapse onto Jenax and force his flash out early. So the new young mid laner coming onto the LEC stage, not having the best starts and already being put behind by the Rogue mid-jungle duo.
And I'd like to see Inspired have a stronger performance on a champion that isn't the Olaf. He's got 3 wins, 1 loss on Olaf so far this split. Only picked up 1 win on any other jungler, and now we're seeing it banned against him every single game, because it makes sense if you're playing up against Rogue. The Sejuani, as you said, probably the strongest or one of the most powerful junglers in the meta. If he could perform well on it this game, I think Rogue will be looking a lot stronger, looking a lot hungrier towards playoff contention. But a loss here, you have to feel, starts them tumbling down at the standings. And they'll be trying to stay out of, 9th and 10th spot instead of looking for 5th or 6th.
Yeah, they certainly will be. I feel like that every team right now in the LEC can beat everyone else except for maybe G2, but we'll have to wait and see.
You're saying G2 can't beat everyone?
That is exactly what I'm saying, unless they pick what the fan suggests. Meanwhile, 2v2 in the bot lane.
Dreams jumps in, gets a double knockup, looking for the jump back here, but Vander just gets the ignite going down. Woolite going in, one more order, that's enough! That's blood to Rogue. Crownshot trying to trade back, the ignite is ticking on Woolite here, Crownshot jumps forward, gets it! And now Vander has to try and trade in a support versus AD carry matchup. Crownshot's running away, he's going to win it for the moment, dodges away. And will just survive.
Can he land the W? Now. Oh, look at the positioning of Vander, standing behind the minions, saying, "Ooh, if you try to W me, I should be safe." It ends up being a 1-for-1 in the bot lane. We're seeing why the Nautilus is considered a pretty good pick into the Rakan. Let's look at exactly how this one plays out. So, The Rogue duo actually have push. They land a quick hook onto Dreams, and they just burst through him initially. Good double knockup, but Crownshot, I feel, doesn't have the mana to really go for this trade, which means that Dreams is just in an awkward spot where he's getting attacked on by 2 members, and Crownshot can't really answer, but he's been doing what he can, slowly hitting onto Woolite, and then a really good flash from Crownshot to dodge out from the Q of the Corki, enables him to actually trade that back, and unfortunately Crownshot didn't quite have the damage in order to secure that final kill onto Vander.
Just importantly, if you're wondering why Dreams didn't use his E to jump onto Crownshot and make a little bit more distance happen, he had used it just before the fight started, which is probably why Vander and Woolite thought, we can go in, we can take this trade, and it actually cost Dreams his life. So a little bit over-eager, trying to use that shield in the lane to mitigate just a small bit of damage, instead of using it as an escape tool.
So, good punishment there from Vander and Woolite, recognizing when those cooldown windows were available. Now look at Rogue setting up for a play in mid. They know that Jenax does not have flash. Larssen not level 6 yet, but they don't care.
Jenax going to try and use the Umbral Dash to get away. Inspire going in, the hook's going to connect, and there's not really any way out of this CC chain. Larssen with the perfect execution. Vander taking up the tower. Rogue get out alive.
Beautifully done by the side of Rogue. This was an early investment. Remember how they got that flash from the mid laner much earlier on in that 2v2 exchange? Now they're coming to collect what is owed them. Larssen just hits level 6. He flashes in to close the gank. Inspired tanks initially, but he stays a far enough range to allow the aggro to swap over to Vander, which then allows him to get that kill. Meanwhile, Finn gets a solo kill up in the top lane, and now we're getting to see the power of a one-trick.
That Kled could get out of control very quickly. We talked about the power of his level 6 to gank other lanes. Well, Sacre now is going to have to be very careful, not just to get taken out by himself in that top lane. Woolite here, under the cautious Crownshot, Selfmade and Dreams coming in. The Valkyrie away, but the stun lock will come out, and it's an easy enough kill for Dreams. SK get one in return, but Rogue are the team playing across the map right now.
So at the very least, Rogue get back onto the map. They secure themselves another kill on the board, but as you rightly said, Medic, it feels like the game is already starting to fall out of SK's hands because the solo lanes are going so well for Rogue. We get to have a look back at this 1v1 matchup, so you can see that in these trades, Sacre has been taking a lot of damage, and Finn's like, I think I can dive this. He's waiting for his Q cooldown. He decides to use his ultimate to guarantee the lockdown, and then, ooh, he gets a bit of health back from the Triumph in order to then walk away and flash out from the dangers of the tower. Beautifully played by Finn. This also forces the wave to bounce back towards him, and even though Sacre was already at a lane deficit, it's now been made even worse by the fact that he lost all that farm underneath the tower that Finn had built up. So, great start for Finn. Meanwhile, Jenax being put behind, and it feels like right now Rogue have an advantage top, have an advantage mid, and while they may have found that kill bot lane, the fact that Woolite and Vander are able to find that 2 versus 2 still shows that it's relatively even now.
And all that you asked from Rogue was not to fall behind in the laning phase. It said their team composition seemed easier to play. They had strong teamfight tools. They had the ability to split push if they needed. But maybe Finn getting caught out in the top lane right now. He's going to dismount from Scar. Jumps back. Selfmade tanking up the tower. Inspired on his way. Has the level 6 with the Glacial Prison if he wants to go in. Sacre maybe looking to dive this, but instead decides he's going to fight another day. Dreams coming down towards this bottom side. Will get spotted out. And Rogue continue the pressure as they look towards this first plate down in bot lane.
I like the pathing there from Inspired as well. Notice how he had the choice between going for his blue buff or going for his Krugs. He noticed that Finn, there was a large wave stacking up against him. We already talked about how that actually denied Sacre a lot of farm, but that was also the risk of a dive coming. So he paths up towards top, decides to go for his Krugs, and he's like, okay, if I can't protect Finn, then at the very least I get jungle camps, but if I can, then I will. And so he was there, ready, present to keep his top laner alive and avoid any dire situations.
And Larssen continually just putting Jenax about half HP. Selfmade's here, steals away the ultimate. He's not going to use it quite yet. The package was picked up by Woolite as well, as now Rogue look down towards this Ocean Dragon hungrily. They can, if you take this early on, it just helps out with your laning so much more.
They have to be careful of trying to force it right now, though, because Finn does not have his ultimate, sorry, his teleport, so he's going to be forced to roam down. Sacre has the TP just about to come up, and he has his ulti available. So the big indicator of whether or not Rogue want to go for this Drake will be all about where Finn is on the minimap. The fact that he stayed top lane heavily suggests that right now they just want to gain some vision control around it, move back towards their waves, clear those out, and then wait for another opportunity while Finn continues to push in the top lane.
I think throughout the game we'll be doing a comparison of new players. pretty often. You can see Finn, 30 CS lead in his lane. Yes, he's picked up his one trick, but coming into the team and having this stronger start is always going to be motivating for the rest of the lineup. Whereas Jenax is sitting 21 CS behind. He's died once already, has his flashback up now, but you have to feel he will want to get back in this game. He'll want to make a play. Dreams flashing in here. Selfmade coming in as well. Crownshot with the chase, but the dodge away from Woolite, and now Inspired was on his way down, decides he doesn't want to take this fight.
So again, keep your eyes on the minimap. Look at where the Kled is. He's the most important piece in trying to set up a play. Looks like he's decided once again not to roam down. His teleport may be available soon, but good setup from the side of SK overall. They had Selfmade sneak into the lane, come in from behind. He's recognized that he can't find advantages top. He can't likely outplay the 2v1 mid, so instead he'll attack bot. He knows that Woolite is constantly looking to push. He knows that this is a lane that he can actually attack with the help of the Rakan, and they almost find themselves a kill. Unfortunately, cannot lock the Corki down.
Is that the comparison that we're going to be looking at there now? Is it going to be SK play around the bot side of the map? How big a lead can they get down there? Whereas Rogue say, okay, we'll play around the top side of the map. How big a lead can we get here? And then in the mid game, those two sides will clash, and we'll see who comes out on top.
Well, I mean, when you get to this point in the game, it becomes very much about how you play around where you have pressure. And the thing is, because Finn is winning his 1v1 and Larssen is winning his 1v1, naturally, they're the lanes that have pressure and you want to play around. So it makes sense for Inspired to try and enable and protect those lanes, which means that Woolite and Vander naturally get less jungle resources. As a result, Selfmade should try and answer by investing more jungle resources to the place that should be easy to gank, because Inspired is less likely to be there. So that's why they'll look to attack the bot, but the question is whether or not they can even convert that into any advantages, because while you rightly said, if the bot lane was ahead, then the mid game would probably be a little bit more even, but they're not. Larssen is ahead, Finn is ahead, but Crownshot and Woolite are actually relatively even, as you can see that the Trinity Force is nearly complete on the Woolite. So even though he's down 2 kills, he's still in a pretty decent spot, and a lot more is going to be required before Crownshot can really threaten that much as we approach the mid game.
See how much they can get into Crownshot. Kaisa, when you get towards mid-late game, 2-3 items can be incredibly powerful, but Inspired says, well, we'll play towards top. Charge comes out, Sacre still has the flash. Try and get underneath this tower, pulled back. Oh, Rift Herald used. Okay. I expect Inspired to go for a dive there, but instead,
there as well.
Rift Herald comes out, Cannon Barrage used by Sacre. They're just going to go for tower plates, and I mean, that had to be intentional. There's no reason you would use your trinket as you walked into the
I think that was intentional.
Oh, they're still going to go for the dive. Glacial Prison connects, but Sacre will use the oranges to get out. Has burnt the flash as well. Rift Herald coming in, the teleport used as well by Rogue as they go for the fight. Larssen who joins it. And the tank should be pretty much too easy here. Sacre taken out. Rogue get another kill up towards the top side. And they will go for the tower as well.
Now, a lot of time and resources were invested from the side of Rogue to make that dive happen. In the meantime, SK have already responded by securing an Ocean Drake, and they're able to get up towards the mid tower and the bot tower. So while Rogue, sure, they do secure their first tower, it's a question of how much plates can they keep alive as SK is threatening, and now Rogue are looking for a fight.
Larssen has the ultimate, going to jump straight on towards Selfmade. Ignite down, locked up in place. Vander will take his 3rd kill of the game. Crownshot and Dreams are harassing this tower down towards the bottom lane, but look at it, they have about a 500 to 600 gold lead over the lane opponents, whereas in mid, there's a 500, and in top, there's a 1,600 lead for Rogue.
Love the map movement from Larssen to go from top to mid, knowing that Vander was already making the rotation happen. They didn't even want to run the risk of going bot lane. What's the point? We have 3 members top, let's just do what we can to control the mid wave. And so because he had numbers, Larssen was able to set up this play. And again, I want to draw people's attention. We're starting off with this play up towards top side of the map. So this, I agree with you. I thought that they could maybe just go for the dive here, especially given that they had a mid wave available to them. Instead, they decided to wait. Now, Sacre decides to stick around, and you can debate whether this was a mistake or not, because, in my opinion, it is. You should just abandon the tower. You should look to try and make a cross-map play elsewhere. While he doesn't have teleport himself, by him staying here, he does what he can to actually stay alive, which kind of forces Larssen to then TP in, but it was very risky for him to actually stick around in this situation. Instead, I feel like he should have looked to move elsewhere and avoid the risk of a potential dive.
SK did get an Ocean Dragon while that fight was going on, so they have at least 1 Drake to their name, but now with the map opening up just a little bit, Finn still sitting in the side lane can join mid lane so quickly, of course, because of that charge, because of the Kled ultimate. And it's the reason we talk about how impactful it can be when this champion gets ahead. Rogue stepping forward into the jungle will look down towards this bottom lane, see if they can break open the tower. And It's Larssen on Jenax. Selfmade trying to join the fray down towards bot.
So now Finn has finally decided to group up with his team. You can see he's hanging around the mid lane, and Rogue are doing exactly what we saw in our first game of the day from XL, where they've just kind of clumped up and they're just kind of hanging all around one side of the map. I'm actually surprised that Finn has already gone up towards top side. This does suggest that Rogue taking a bit of a unique approach rather than try and force and pressure the mid lane tower. They want to try and secure this side lane tower, but this actually gives SK a lot of time to respond and answer. So Rogue, I feel like, not being super efficient in how they properly set up the map, because by investing so many resources bot, SK actually get to see well in advance this is happening. They don't have to worry about their mid lane at all because it wasn't pushed in. And the only thing they have to be stressed about is the top side, but the Gangplank is there to try and deal with it. So I feel like the Rogue investing so heavily into that tower was a mistake, but this play, I quite like.
Charge comes in, Crownshot caught out, it's Finn, stunned up between the two towers. Glacial Prism hits, it's only onto the AD carry. Crownshot goes golden, and Dreams coming in from the side. Has the ultimate if they want to go. Inspired's going to jump the wall. Dreams won't go all the way in. The rest of his team wasn't there to follow him up.
So this is what I wanted to see, and I quite like with how Kled can threaten dives. But that's why I think Rogue should have stayed mid. If they just stayed as a group and then used this Kled ultimate with the pressure they had top to try and set up a play mid, then they would have looked great. Unfortunately, he just kind of does it with no one there, so he doesn't get much off the back of it outside of the stopwatch from Crownshot. So Rogue right now struggling to push their advantage towards these final outer towers in both mid and bot, and SK is using this time to actually ramp up, scale. The Kaisa is actually getting a decent amount of gold right now. The first item has been completed, and while only a small advantage over Woolite, still an advantage nonetheless, and honestly will be one of the primary win conditions as we move later into the game.
Yeah, it's currently about 500 gold ahead of Woolite, with Rogue being 2,000 gold ahead in the game totals. I'll take that. You know, Vander picking up 3 kills in that bottom lane has definitely helped the SK bottom lane stay in touch. And we'll see how effective that Kaisa can be as the game does develop. 17 minutes in, as you say, Rogue, yeah, it feels like they're just struggling a little bit. SK very happy just to defend, play around.
Well, be
Rogue.
careful with the use of saying that they're struggling a bit, right? Because obviously they're in a position, but I do think that they are struggling to break the
yeah, to make that next play.
Yes. And I think that it's just a matter of how they're using their pressure. I think they have like the right idea of mind of what they want to do, but just the execution is faltering a little bit. So what I expect now is the Dragon to be the next biggest priority. It's wanted about 10 seconds, and what Rogue need to do is gain the push in mids, push in top, bring Finn down, try and force Sacre to TP into the fight, and have Larssen push out bot. If they're able to get priority mid, they can actually threaten this bot tower, and if they secure it, then it's much easier to secure this Drake. But SK, they have other plans in mind, as we noticed Selfmade hanging around the top side of the map.
Yeah, they're looking for the play on Finn as he came down for that rotation. You can see Dreams has actually caught him out behind here. Charge going to come out, Selfmade unable to stop him. Finn will escape, means that he can't join the fight too quickly if one erupts around that dragon.
So this is really cool from SK, because remember what we were just talking about. We expected Finn to push in and roam. So what SK wanted to do was catch him in the rotation, and then with a kill onto him, they could actually look to challenge and contest the Ocean Drake. Unfortunately for them, they can't find the kill. Finn uses his ultimate very well to avoid the collapse, but Rogue actually not threatening the Ocean. Instead, they just take the bot tower, they back away, and now they bring Larssen up to start threatening this mid tower.
Only Dreams there to defend for the moment. Crownshot on his way. Jenax can just dash across the wall. Quickness comes out. They're looking for the engage. Dreams was stunned in place. Caught up with the dredge line as well. And Rogue looked for the re-engage. But Jenax is on that front line and Vander's very low. Shut down. Jenax takes it. Woolite and Inspired need to run for the hills because Jenax is still on the chase. The Dark in play will land on 2. Inspired will survive for now. And SK find a kill.
So once again, I feel like we're seeing a small mistake from Rogue. I feel like the safer and better play would have been to go for the Ocean Drake, but instead they committed to mid, which allowed SK enough time to actually respond and answer. And now they are the ones that find themselves a kill. They actually take down the mid tower, and they can reclaim control over the mid and actually look to set up for the Drake themselves.
Yeah, and Crownshot's now got to a very powerful position as well with the Ginsus and the Mana Boom stacking up. SK only scaling into this game as it does continue, but Rogue do still have a lot of tools in their tool. You've still got the Akali in the side lane if you want it. You've still got Finn who can roam into the fights pretty easily. Just need to find that avenue of approach.
Now some cool stuff happens here, and like this is a great ultimate from Inspired to interrupt the engage from Dreams. They almost get that collapse down but don't quite find it. But then because they've decided to try and kill Dreams, they actually overstep that allows Jenax to get this re-engage in. But all of this comes about because Rogue, after taking taking the bot tower, decide to rotate mid rather than go for the Drake. And if they'd just gone for the Drake, they then could have looked to reset and then threaten the mid tower. But instead, because they chose to go for this objective, SK were in a position where they weren't actually forced to overextend. They could just walk back to their tower and say, okay, we'll just defend this then. And they do so successfully. So Rogue end up getting punished here, and now we can see this gold gap slowly start to close.
Only about 1,000 between the two teams now, but all of Rogue are grouping up towards mid, and Finn on his way from the bottom lane as that tower has been broken, and the third tower will fall for Rogue. 20 minutes in, game pretty much on a knife's edge between these two teams, but Rogue do have that strong 4-1, that strong team fight that we talked about a lot in Pick and Ban. SK slightly harder to execute comp, but you have to keep your eyes on Crownshot on this Kaisa. He's so consistent for Rogue. It's a perfect execution, comes out from Larssen. Sacre trying to get away, but the chase is on. He's dead. Vedius called it. Teleport coming in here. Oh, he flashes the wall and lands the stun. He's dead as well. Crownshot will take it.
That was cool. Selfmade, not even on the Sejuani, but still landing those clean Sejuani ultimates. Sets up the play onto Larssen. Ends up being a 1-for-1 overall. And SK relieves some of the pressure towards bot. Again, I want to draw people's attention to the minimap. Notice where teams are trading pressure right now. Finn is up in the top side. He has a minion wave, and he has the support from his jungler, not threatening the tower. But Jenax, because he just found that kill on the bot side, is able to secure that tower, and now the gold is pretty much even. Yep. SK have done a great job of punishing these small mistakes from Rogue in order to come back into this game. And it's just unfortunate for the Gangplank. He's not expecting the Akali to be here. And why would you? When you look at the minimap, there's no reason for Larssen to be here, and SK were already making their way towards the bot side of the map. So Selfmade, after stealing the Sejuani ultimate, flashes in, lands the ultimate through the wall, and is able to set up the play for the rest of his team, who can now collapse and support.
Taking down the Akali gets you a chunk of gold. More of our Mortius now finished on Jenax. He knows that if he faces into Larssen in a pure 1v1, he's probably going to fall. And so he gets himself that shield. And the lifeline passive. Rogue going to play up towards this top side for the moment. Inspired and Vander here to try and help out Larssen. Jenax immediately backs away, says, I don't want a piece of this. And will retreat for the time being. And I think the question for me now becomes, how do these two teams play the next little portion? Because a lot of it is around setting them around the Baron. For SK, they want to take out this final tower on the top lane. But if you can't actually get vision and make picks, it feels a lot harder for these two teams to play.
So what SK want to do is pretty much what you said, right? They need to take that top out of tower, because if they ever want to threaten the Baron, then they need that gone. Otherwise, it's much harder for them to move into the enemy jungle and threaten. So what we're expecting to see SK do is actually maintain pressure over mid and start to get deep vision in. Ooh, Inspired. Looking for that pick onto Crownshot. No follow-up though, but he does get the flash out from Crownshot. But SK want to move into the enemy jungle so they can actually threaten this top side. But now that Crownshot has been forced back, Rogue have actually been able to force their way into the river and are now setting up a flank up towards the top side of the map.
This could be a huge flank for Rogue. SK sitting on a pink ward. Blue buff has been started here by Finn. Selfmade going in, stolen away the ultimate, unstoppable straight onto him. He charges in, now Finn trying to dodge around the fight as the quickness comes out. SK and Rogue in a fight in the jungle as Finn going low. Selfmade taken down, Crownshot shut down. And that's the first kill for Rogue, but look at Selfmade onto Larssen. Almost taken out himself. Finn spies up towards the bottom side. 2 kills over to Rogue now as Larssen takes the third. Jenax and Sacre trying to defend. It's a 4v2 and they are able to survive for the moment, pushing Rogue back out of the jungle.
SK tried to force a fight that they could not win. And worst of all, they tried to force it onto Finn. This guy is the one that wants to be on the front line. He wants to be soaking up all your damage, and he wants to be in a fight with you. That gave Larssen all the freedom to dive onto the back line and kill out the major damage dealer of Crownshot before Sacre even joins the fight. Everything was going in favor of Rogue. Remember, they were the ones looking for this fight. They set up this flank. They utilized the Kled ultimate to gain all that bonus movement speed to then set up the collapse. And then they don't find it. Now in this position, all SK want to do is buy time for the Gangplank, who's on the other side of the map, to start pushing towards that tower. Instead, they go for the engage. They're 4 versus 4 initially, and then you can see Woolite coming in from the side. But look at how all of SK are grouped up, and Larssen is just dancing around the outside, easily makes his way onto the backline, is able to find that execute, finds a second kill onto Selfmade, and what Jenax does what he can, unfortunately it's just not enough. Rogue's comp works so much better in these 5 versus 5 situations, especially in a narrow choke point, and SK should have just been more patient. They should have waited for the Gangplank to do what he was doing so well off in a side lane.
Bam was started there for a second by Rogue. They only have 1,000 gold lead, but they have total vision control over the river now. SK, no real wards in that area. Inspired will clear out the only control ward that's there for them. Now, SK do have 2 wards behind towards that red buff.
But they don't have any TPs, unfortunately, so they can't really set up a flank, whereas Rogue have multiple. But notice again, they're not moving towards the bot lane. They just want to keep control of the mid. This is where SK is in a pretty good position because they're the ones that can get priority, forcing Rogue to go the long way around, which means SK can now move into the river to clear out some vision. They just have to be careful of the Finn collapse, who's just waiting for it and looking for it by the side of the river.
Here we go.
Here it comes.
SK walking into darkness. Sacre trying to do what he can.
Where's the
keep
charge?
Inspired and Vander away. Where's the charge? Looking for that connection.
Oh, okay, my bad. Woolite actually just went back to base, so if they try to force that fight now, it would have been 4 versus 5.
You baited me, Vedius.
Yeah, I built up all that tension. Very sorry. So Rogue, for the time being, they're just going to clear out some vision.
We were looking for a charge, and I had a USB-C, and you had a micro USB, and it just didn't quite work out.
It took me a while, but I got that one. That's quite
Rogue
good.
going to start up the Baron now as they try and pull SK into a fight. Dreams is just based. Baron has been started. The long-range Void Seeker will connect 9,000 HP. There's the Cannon Barrage as well. The Unstoppable coming out.
The charge.
Looking straight for Selfmade and Sacre. They'll connect onto the Gangplank. Glacial Prism doesn't hit. It's fine. Jenax on the back line. Look at the damage he's putting onto Vander. Here comes the engage with the quickness. And SK have routed Rogue. Rogue took the fight. The Crownshot was there in time. Woolite done. 3 for none. And SK win it.
SK actually turned that fight around, and a large part of it was because Crownshot was not threatened. The damage dealer was able to do exactly what he needs to. SK find themselves 3 kills, they're going to secure themselves a Baron, and with this, the game is in their control, and they may be able to finally end that losing streak.
7 losses in a row, and they are on the cusp of a win here. It's all on the fact Crownshot survives, but also watch Dreams in this fight because his quickness is gorgeous.
It certainly is, but also look at the positioning of Rogue. They funnel themselves into this choke point, and rather than giving the Akali the freedom to threaten the backline, they effectively go onto the front line. Sacre and Selfmade are the focus, which means that Crownshot can sit on the back, and here comes Dreams for the setup. Crownshot can then just follow up behind him. He knows that he has a meat shield to protect him, and that allows SK to get this cleanup. Beautiful, patient play, and just not great target focus coming out from the side of Rogue to allow SK to get this turnaround.
I think poor target focus is
poor target.
Yeah, you could just say there.
I mean, you could see in the situation where like 2 members are caught off guard, it looks like a good setup. However, SK were on the flank setting up ready. So Jenax coming over the wall, he bought a lot of time, he had a lot of healing, and then that Rakan ultimate comes up to then allow Crownshot to follow up and deal all that damage as you're seeing on your screen right now, was just a really well played fight from SK. So they're the ones that this time were able to punish Rogue for their mistake. And now, with the Baron, they're grouping up mid and they're threatening this tower. And
we set it up at the 10-minute mark. We said Crownshot's the one to carry SK this game, and he is doing his darndest to do it. Ginsu's, Nash's Tooth, Manamune all the way stacked up. It's very hard for Rogue to find the fight now. They're going to go up towards this bottom lane. Now, Finn's still pushing in top, but it's a 4-1 split for SK as they look for as many towers as they can get out of the Baron buff. Midwave is pushing in. There's a cannon in bot as well, but for the moment, they're just going to wait. And we'll see if SK can break open the base.
So one of the struggles that Rogue is going to have is their wave clear is not the strongest. Woolite does a lot of magic damage, and these minions that are empowered by the Baron take less damage. Ooh, as Dreams has been caught.
Glacial Prism hits him. He's going to get locked up, taken out. The teleport coming in from the flank here as Rogue. Look at the fight. It's a 3v5. Crownshot trying to survive as much as he can. Larssen caught up. Airborne on the back line. He's going to jump it back in. It's a shutdown going over to Finn. The jump in. Finn remounts, jumping forwards, but he's going to get taken out. He dived too deep, and Crownshot will take him down. And now SK can continue to push in because they have a 3v3 fight, and they still have that buff.
These fights are entirely determined by whether Crownshot lives or dies. This fight, he had his flash available and was able to get out of Larssen's reach. That means that it ended up being a 2-for-2 as Rogue's frontline dies in exchange for Jenax and Dreams. SK showcasing that they can still match the fight. And again, I just want to keep our focus on the positioning of Crownshot in these fights because the TP flank from Larssen is good. It gives you an opportunity to get onto the backline. And Jenax body blocks for his AD carry, who gets very low and then flashes out of reach of the actual bear trap on a rope that was connected by Finn. Things look pretty promising, but then again, Crownshot gets to re-engage. He does a bunch of damage, and then Sacre is just acting as a frontline. His barrels are contributing a lot as well. So SK, it's all about whether or not they can keep Crownshot alive in these fights in order to allow them to win. And you're noticing how much harder it is for Rogue to set up these flanks and actually dive onto the backline.
You can see what an important game it is for both teams as well. If Rogue win, they tie up with Origin and Vitality, who have yet to play today, whereas if SK win, They equal out with XL, no longer solo last, and break that 7-game losing streak. Finally, this top lane tower will fall. SK take it. The Baron buff just worn out. They can continue to push in. They just want this last outer turret. SK on the horizon is a victory for them, but Rogue continue to hamper them at every step.
SK, you can see their upcoming schedule on the bottom of your screen. Compared to some other teams, relatively easy. Some top teams, some middle of the pack teams. Based on how you evaluate XL, that final week might be one of the toughest. But we'll have to see how they progress. In that last replay, the Drake was secured, which means that there are now 3 Ocean Drakes on the side of SK. As Medic mentioned, they also got that top tower. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is that Zhonya's is finished for Crownshot. Notice how we talked so much about whether SK lives and dies by the success of this AD carry. Now that he's got the Zhonya's, him surviving becomes a lot easier. And Rogue, in order for them to win these fights, they're going to have to find a successful flank off the back of Finn, or they find a good ultimate off the back of Inspired. But it's pretty much a battle between Larssen and Crownshot right now. Who lives, who dies, determines on who moves forward in today's game.
See if Rogue are able to hold their nerve and find the perfect engage right now. Jenax will just back away in a bush, and Rogue would use the time to get some vision control around the Baron. It's up in 1 minute and 10 seconds, as you can see on the top right corner of your screen. Still 2.5 minutes before the mid lane inhib respawns for Rogue, so at least for about 1.5 minutes while that Baron's up, it's going to be very hard for Rogue to keep the waves pushing towards the SK base because of those super minions in the mid lane.
For some reason, people are cheering us. I'll take it. Thank you, fans. We're supposed to like...
But what is that movement? No one can see what you're doing.
I'm boogieing.
You're boogieing.
The crowd loves it.
I did not hear any love from the crowd.
In spirit. And anyways, notice how Sacre is now level 18. He also has an Infinity Edge. That Gangplank is an angry pirate, and he's definitely someone that you do not want to mess with. And I feel like the later the game goes on, Kled's value does diminish. I feel like he's a very strong early to mid-game champion, but once you reach the late game, his only tool is like a Malphite ultimate, right? He just starts fights. So while he does provide a bit of crowd control, like I'm not too terrified of a Kled trying to kill an enemy AD carry, whereas Sacre, one well-placed barrel, could shift a fight.
Caught out with the dredge line, almost stunned up. He goes gone for the moment. Here comes Streams. Look at him trying to get onto the back line. Look at the damage coming out. Inspire caught up Woolite there as well, but Larssen jumps onto the back line. Crownshot's down. And Rogue will now look to take the fight in a 4v5, but Jenax is still that front line. Sacre putting the barrels down. Jenax almost caught out with Bear Trap on the road. It's Selfmade on the front line, trying to take what he can, but Rogue take 2. And now maybe they'll look towards that Baron buff.
Larssen versus Crownshot, and it's Larssen that comes out on top. That was the perfect team fight that they needed in order to come out on top. Now they can threaten the Baron. The jungler is dead. SK, that fight was so important for them, and they fail it. Rogue now in a position to secure the Baron, reclaim control of this game.
Second Baron of the game will go over to Rogue. 33 minutes in. SK now pushed back against the ropes as Rogue landed a vital blow to their body. But now, how do Rogue use this? How do they take this advantage and actually use it to close out the matchup?
Before we get to that, we've got to talk about this replay. Notice how Sacre takes a lot of the initial damage, which is fine. He has the Zhonya's, he has a bit of sustain. The important thing here is that Dreams comes in for the engage, but Crownshot dives in and is unable to kill anyone. Meanwhile, Larssen is lying in wait. He sees where his prey is, and he's just waiting for that Zhonya's to disappear. Crownshot needed a little bit more patience. He needed to hit the target in front of him. Instead, his eyes went straight for Woolite, and he thought, if I kill him, then we can just turn this fight in our favor. But he literally put himself in the middle of 5 Rogue members. And Larssen was like, all right, I'll take that. Finds the execute, finds the Baron for Rogue, and while the gold is still even, we're now set up in a situation where both teams are desperately in need of this win. Both teams want to make that run for playoffs. And while a loss here does not exclude either team, we've talked so much about how every single win matters in order to stand a chance of making that top 6.
Every game counts, Vedius. SK will take this Mountain Drake and set us up for an Elder about the 39-minute mark. With 4 dragons, Rogue cannot afford to lose that, but instead they push mid. They say, okay, we'll take the full 5v5. SK trying to get there in time, but the mid-wave priority is very much in favor of Rogue. Should be able to take this tower pretty easily. SK having to back away, defend at the inhib.
So we'll just be another tower going down. It feels like for now, Rogue just trying to buy a little bit more time. They're afraid of going into these fights because SK has reached a point in the game where their scaling is very strong. I talked a lot in the early game, in the draft, about how I wasn't a massive fan about SK's comp. I feel like that it's very difficult to execute, and I still feel that. I feel like a lot of things have to go right in order for SK to actually win out on these fights because Rogue have just such a strong front line. For SK, they have to find a creative way of surviving the threat of Larssen. There's also a consistent damage dealer that has this big body of tanks to sit there and support them. And champions like Aatrox will not be good at threatening that. So a lot of things have to go right. And a few times SK have found those successful fights, but in this position, it's a lot harder to do. The ball is in Rogue's court. And now they're just looking to get a good serve that can allow them to end this game.
Will it be an ace? Or will it be a double fault here?
All right, serve with the limit of my tennis knowledge, Medic.
I added in a little bit. At the moment, we're at juice in a tiebreaker game. Advantage perhaps to Rogue. We'll see how SK defend here. Could be match point. Rogue pushing in. Glacial Prism doesn't hit from Selfmade. He'd stolen away that ultimate. Now looking to steal another. Long range Prey Seeker only hits onto Inspired, and now SK have to back away. The Inhibitor Tower's fallen. See the damage coming out from Woolite with the 4 completed items now on the Corki, but he takes a lot in return. Prey Seeker once again. Void Seeker, sorry, there from the Kaisa hitting. Not doing as much as he'd hoped, but building up those Ginsu stacks as much as possible. SK still on the defensive, defending as much as they can, but that second inhibitor tower will fall soon. Still 20 seconds left on the Baron buff. And Rogue are eking this one out. Bit by bit, piece by piece, they are breaking the defenses of SK. And at some point, something's gonna crack. Something will break here.
Problem is, whichever team makes that crucial play could either win or lose their team the game. Death time is along at this point in the game. Both teams have a pretty clear path towards the other's nexus. And so both teams playing cautious. Finn goes in, secures the tower.
Quickness comes out, Finn unstoppable, running away. Larssen so low, goes golden for the moment, and now Crownshot's going to try and go in. Larssen jumps across the wall, look at the bottom of the face. Jenax goes forward, it's Inspired. Vander tagging up. Vander already done, and now Inspired will fall as well. Is that the moment? Is that the moment that SK have taken this game by the scruff of the neck? Woolite's going to get pulled back straight into the midst of the waiting arms of SK. It's a triple for Crownshot, and SK are looking for that nexus.
And the ball has been bounced back and forth continuously throughout this game, but SK may have finally found the shot that can end it. They have all 5 members alive, Sacre has his teleport available, and there's only Larssen and Finn left to hold the line.
Larssen did survive. Can he pull a rabbit out of the hat? Can Finn help him on his signature pick, the Kled? Worked so well in the early game, now has to do something absolutely astonishing to hold this game. Minions coming in, SK, one wave really for them to defend, to push forward here, because Inspired and Vander up in just a couple of seconds time. Finn going in, Larssen there as well, the teleport coming in, as Larssen tries to jump onto the back line, Crownshot straight in, but look at the shield, look at the Twilight Shroud already, Crownshot's got the shutdown. Finn coming up, Inspired on his way, Vander's done, and now SK continue to push in, take kill after kill after kill. Finn back onto the base, back onto Skull, surviving for the moment. The Nexus Tower's the new target as Woolite comes up, and SK, maybe they dive too deep, maybe they went for too much, as Rogue managed to defend the next wave coming in, but SK in a 5v3, can they do it?
SK continuing the push. Woolite takes a huge chunk of damage from the barrels.
Flashes away from the cannon barrage. Dreams is down, but Finn might be short to follow. Has the GA. It's going to come back up, and now Woolite. Selfmade's dead. SK, they have not managed to break this base. Finn back up to Skull. I cannot believe it. Crownshot's down, and the TP comes in, and Rogue stole the game away from SK.
Oh my word! This game has been absolutely ridiculous. A comedy of errors from both teams. A multitude of really exciting fights, constantly going either way. Now they're just trying to interrupt the bases. They found Sacre.
They found Sacre. Inspired's going to land the stun here, but Sacre trying to do what he can. Can't survive for long enough. Larssen teleports in, and with 7 seconds on Dream and 16 on Selfmade, you have to feel this is it. Rogue were the team to take that final fight. It all came down to one, and Dreams tries to do what he can, but should not be able to defend here against Larssen and Finn. They just focus the Nexus. Woolite coming in. Rogue quick their losing spree, but SK threw that game away.
What a game!
I think that's what we call an unforced error.
Oh, that was a bit of a fiesta, that game. Definitely throws left, right, and center, but definitely exciting to watch. It felt like Rogue had firm control over the early game. It felt like that they did a really good job of finding advantages in the lane. But the moment that we moved into the mid game and they needed to start moving around the map, start breaking these towers, it felt like the Rogue weren't sure how to maximize their pressure. They couldn't break the first line of towers. And that's really where the chaos started, because it ended up being fight after fight. Initially going Rogue's way, then going SK's way, then going Rogue's way, then going SK's way. And it honestly came down to which team could win the final fight. And in the very end, you thought SK had won it. They punished Finn for giving away his life to secure that tower. But then Rogue hold the line. Their front line just soaks up enough damage and SK cannot end it. The fact that Woolite was able to come back to life in that period of time, absolutely crazy. SK was so close to ending their losing streak, but unfortunately it now extends to 0-8. Rogue now tie up Origin and Vitality in the standings. Yep. And so many of our teams are making a last run for playoffs. Very exciting step for the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
Very exciting game.
It's just it was a very fun game to watch. I'm not sure it's one I'll VOD review for League of Legends, but it's definitely one I will watch back with fondness.
It was entertaining. I loved watching those fights. I loved that the fights really did come down to who survived, Larssen or Crownshot, right? And you always had to watch those two players, who found the good outplay, who was able to catch the other one out. And how the game ended, definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah, not at all, not at all. But what an ending it was. What fun it was to watch. Rogue now at 5-8, as you say, equalized with Origin Vitality, who play later today. And you look at the rest of their schedule, it's a tough road for them. They have Splice, Fnatic, G2, Origin, and Schalke left to play, and they really want to get 4 wins out of that, which is going to be very hard, but maybe a win here will give them that impetus they need to make that next step.
I still think one of the issues for SK is their drafting. I still feel like that there are much easier ways to play the game in the current meta, and I think that they're making it a lot harder for themselves in the way in which they're drafting, and like ultimately they created a situation where they almost came back into it, but I think they need to give themselves more options, and I hope that with the introduction of Jenax, we definitely saw some brighter sparks from the side of SK. They were able to put up a much bigger fight than compared to what we've normally seen. We can only hope that they continue to improve from here. And now we're going to get to see this final team fight. This was kind of the overstep that we saw from initially Finn, and then that baited Larssen in, and the rest of the team tried to help, and they end up all getting caught out. And it's simply a matter of one after the other. And this kill onto Woolite was really the big thing, because with him gone, all the wave clear is gone. And at this point, you're like, well, okay, SK can just look to end the game. And now the thing is, Baron isn't up. So the best play is to try and end, right? So they take the inhibitor. They know they have a minion wave, and what I want is the Gangplank to TP in now, immediately, because the goal should just be to end, right? So he does come in the moment the Finn goes to the re-engage, and notice how they're going for the fight rather than trying to focus the towers. This Rogue lineup has no damage. There's no one here that can kill you. You've just killed Larssen, so try and end the towers, but you can't now hit the towers because you don't have a minion wave. So Rogue clear that one out, and now they're just buying time. So SK is still in this long extended fight. Finn gets all of his health back because he's, you know, Kled. And at this point, SK should just disengage. But nope, they continue to go for the fight. They think they can do it. Really good battle there onto Woolite, and they think that if they can get that kill. But then look, 2 versus 5 on multiple low health members. The tanks end up finding these kills. The Resurrect comes through from Finn. He then gets Skull back. And now Crownshot doesn't have a frontline that he can play around. So, in the end, decision-making is ultimately what lost SK the game. They should have realized after that initial push, they should have just looked to disengage. Maybe go for a Baron play, but they didn't.
Yeah. I don't really have much more to add, I'll be honest.
Look at those gold swings.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a fun game to watch, and that's what I'll give it. I don't think either of these teams will look back at it and say, hey, that was our best League of Legends. I'm sure they have a lot to work on. But if you guys want to get involved in thinking about who was perhaps the best player from that game, you can go on over to lolesports on Twitter and vote for our key player of the game. It's Finn, Inspired, or Larssen.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Finn had a good early game. I would give it to Larssen, personally. I think his ability to assassinate Crownshot was really good. But for now, I'm actually going to hand it over to Rogue's new top laner, Finn, in an interview.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Finn, for joining me. What a crazy game from you guys. Can you talk to me about the end of the game? Because I saw the face you made when the game ended, and yeah, it was confusing.
I mean, it was a bit stressful. We were in a really pinchy situation. Like, we were like in a life or death. Like, if they get his base, it was like really close. So we just had to kind of sacrifice our lives for the waves, so they couldn't really hit the buildings. So, I mean, in the meanwhile, we tried to do as much damage to them as we could, and it just became this really, crazy hustle that we came out on top of.
It's a W in the end, so congrats on this one. You were subbed in today to play with the Rogue squad in a tricky situation. So can you give me some insights about this decision?
The reason I got subbed in is because we wanted to try some new strategies. Because, I mean, both me and Prophet are playing with a team, and we just want to try. Me and Prophet has pretty different play styles as a top laner, so we want to try how we can change the teams into different iterations and try to experiment a bit before playoffs.
Any special feelings when you have to come on stage against an SK gaming team who's been underperforming so bad lately?
I mean, it's a pressure that, it's really, every game matters right now a lot. We just really need to win every game we can, so I'm just really grateful we got this victory.
Now, you had to see the team from backstage since you were not playing in the LEC, so what is your take on the progress Rogue made since the last time you were on stage?
I mean, I've been working with this team the whole split, and I see like the players are getting better every day, every week. Like, we have some slumpy weeks sometimes, like last week, but I still think every player is like improving a lot, and we're still learning new things every week and how we want to play and how the game should be played according to us. And it's just a really solid improvement.
Well, really glad to hear that. Thank you very much for your answers. And we're going to take a short break now. And coming back, Vitality will face on G2.